But this year, the mood is tempered by economic hardship. In a national address, President Bola Tinubu sought to reassure citizens, declaring that the West is over. His administration has embarked on sweeping economic reforms, scrapping the decades-old fuel subsidy and unifying the country's multiple exchange rates. Now, Tinubu insists that the measures were necessary to reset the Nigeria's struggling economy. To talk about this further, we're joined on the line by Dr. Moyosoluwa Dele-Dada. She is, of course, a lecturer at Miva Open University, Department of Public Policy and Administration in Nigeria. But before we talk to her, let's take a listen to what President Bola Tinubu had to say earlier today.
For decades, the promise of our independence has been tested by profound social, economic, and political challenges, and we have survived.
That's Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu there, addressing the national address of the Nigeria marking 65 years of independence. All right. To talk to us further about, reflecting on his speech and what is happening in Nigeria, we're joined now on the line by Dr. Moyosoluwa Dele-Dada. Doctor, thank you so very much for making the time and welcome to Channel Africa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, President Bola Tinubu says the West is over. Based on current economic indicators, does this, claim hold water? Or because some people can say, hang on, this sounds more like a political reassurance?
Okay, thank you for that question. So to answer that question, it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. And while Mr. President has made major attempts to improve the economy of Nigeria, the effects of such actions are not visible yet. However, this is not to say that though the effect of those actions are not in existence, because even the IMF affirmed that there has been significant, consistent economic growth in Nigeria's economy. However, it's still too low. And as such, this growth or these changes in the economy are not visible yet to the common man. Because the common man is basically concerned about the cost of food, the cost of transportation, how much money he still has in his pocket, after paying his bills. And Mr. President is saying, the worst is off and, the best is to come next. And that makes no sense to the common man because things are still very much expensive. Transportation is still very much expensive. The cost of food is still very high. And it's just not visible yet, but that is not to say it is absent.
Yeah, it's not visible yet, and it's not visible yet, but it does look like it's going to take some time. And maybe what he's saying is that we need to be patient with the process. But how sustainable are the reforms, for an example, in fuel subsidy removal and forex, unification in the long term, given the short-term pain Nigerians are experiencing at the moment?
Well, it is sustainable, but it is going to cost an average Nigerian a whole lot. Because if we're talking about sustainable development, a type of development that allows even those who come after us to be able to experience a better life, these are sacrifices that we have to make. But it is going to cost the average man a lot of things because I believe that things might still get tighter than what they currently are right now. Because if you look at what the IMF said, there's a consistent growth, but the growth is still too low. And for us to pick up the pace, there's still certain things that would need to be done. And, it's almost like saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. So it's still a long road ahead for Nigeria.
Yeah, and I understand that in your article that you you recently published that gives a comparison with Nigeria now and during COVID-19. You published it yesterday. You highlighted the fact that a vast number of Nigerians living in extreme poverty. And having heard what the president is saying, do you see a man in touch with the realities that are facing a vast majority of Nigerians? Or would you say that he's failing to read the temperature outside of his office?
Okay, so I would say that the president is not taking all factors into consideration. So what he's doing in a way is fine, but he's not taking all the factors in play into consideration. For example, in terms of policy making, most of these policies targeted at alleviating poverty in Nigeria tend to be income centric rather than people centric. And as such, those policies have a sort of top down approach in their formation and implementation. And that means that the realities of those who are even affected by these maintenance, it's not being put into consideration in the formulation of these policies that are created to alleviate poverty. And what this means is that those that the policy is designed to assist or to help end up not being able to benefit from that particular policy. Because at the end of the day, you cannot provide for people when you do not even know what they want. It's like saying, I want salt, but then you're giving me sugar. I have no use for sugar, but you're giving me sugar when I need salt. So I think Mr. President needs to consider other factors in play aside from what he has focused on so far.
Yeah, let's then talk about the long term here. And then the question is, could these reforms deepen inequality and poverty before yielding the benefits that the president is talking about and the benefits that he's promising? And how might that impact political instability in the country? Because I'm asking, we've been seeing a lot of protests in different African nations because of the issues of where citizens are not happy with government. Is that where we're going now, where this might come with a lot of pain before we see the benefits that the president is promising?
Yes, definitely. This is going to come with a lot of pain, and it's a very long ride for Nigerians. Yes, it will deepen inequality, definitely, because right now the salary scale has not improved, even though we've seen an increase in the minimum wage, so to say. But the cost of things and the minimum wage is not, there's no balance to it, because before you know it, your salary is gone and you've not even paid all the bills you have to pay. And there's also a matter of multidimensional poverty, which goes beyond just income. So we have access to healthcare, access to education, clean water, amongst others. So even if the income part is sorted, if you spend all of your salary on, basic things that should be made available for you on a normal day, you also have to then find a way to address things like healthcare, education, and I fear that may even lead to an increase in the number of out-of-school children that we have today. And so the implication of this in political stability is that the people are going to get very impatient. I believe Nigerians are already so angry to begin with, and so they're going to get very impatient. I believe that we may see lots of protests. But because of the nature of protests in Nigeria, people are still being very careful. But you can only push people to a certain point before they push back. So once they get to that point where they do not care, I believe that they are going to take the streets. And we operate a democratic system, so it means that we have periodic election. So there's always a choice of voting him out of power if they're not okay with his type of government.
Yeah, and Doctor, just before I let you go, if I hear you correctly, you're saying that Tinubu's message is likely not to resonate with ordinary Nigerians facing, rising costs of food, as you indicated, transport and basic services.
Yes, definitely. It will never resonate with the common man, because the common man doesn't care what GDP is. He doesn't care what foreign reserve is about. He cares about food on his table, transportation, and the money he has left in his pocket. You're telling me that there's an increase, or the economy has become better, but I'm then asking how? Because the cost of things is still high. The cost of food still high, the cost of transportation still high, the cost of basic amenities still high. So I am not saying the changes we're talking about, and so definitely not going to resonate with the common man.
All right, Dr. Moyosoluwa Dele-Dada, thank you so very much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, there you have it. That conversation brings us to exactly 21:22 Central African Time. This is Africa World Hour on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.